When people come to me and say, oh, I want to work in the film industry, what do you think I should do? I say, direct. It's the one thing that's easy. You're just photographing people talking, and then you give it to an editor who'll cut it all together. Oh, I'm Bruce Beresford. I was the director of Ladies in Black, and I co-wrote the script with Sue Millican, the producer. Well, Ladies in Black is a story set in 1959 in Sydney. And it's about a young girl who finishes her leaving certificate in high school, and she gets a holiday job in a department store called Goode's, where the ladies all wear black, which is simply why it's called the Ladies in Black. And when she's there, she meets a number of the other sales ladies. In particular, she becomes friends with a woman who's emigrated to Australia, like a lot of Europeans did at that time. And there's a friendship between the two of them, which in effect changes the young girl's life and attitudes.
Some help I can use during this season.
Who's that?
Magda, one of them refos.
Refugees. Migrants.
It was from a novel by a woman called Madeline St. John, and it dealt with this theme that was of interest to me, where the Australian community, who are sort of entrenched, are coping with the arrival of lots of migrants from Europe. And of course the migrants from Europe are coping with having to settle into a new country. And it was something that, it's a universal theme. It's something that's really happening now in Australia. And Madeline dealt with a lot of serious issues with a very light touch. And I thought to myself, that's the way to deal with all this, to make these points, is to do it with humour and good nature. So I bought an option on the book, thinking the book is so funny and so well written, it'll be a snap to set it up and get the money for a film. Took 25 years.
You're a clever girl. It's the most wonderful thing in all creation, you know?
Perhaps you will be a businesswoman. There are worse things.
Shooting a period film in Sydney, like Ladies in Black set in 1959, is somewhat trickier than going out and shooting, say, a contemporary drama where you can just film in the street, you can film on the beach, you can film anywhere. I mean, once you've got a period film, even though the period's only 50, 60 years ago, really everything's different. All the clothes are different, all the cars are different. There's a few shots which are done digitally. So we use the Mark Foy's building, and then the digital guys put trams around it and all sorts of period cars and things like that. Other bits of Sydney, we sort of hunted around and found things that hadn't changed much. The department store was actually based on David Jones, which is still there in Sydney. But of course that had been changed endlessly over the years. But we found out that the 7th floor had never been touched. Every floor had been modernised, but not the 7th. It looked just as it did in 1959. And they agreed to let us in there. So we used the 7th floor, which of course was huge, as the ground floor, and built a false entrance and a street outside it. So we could use the actual building. And other things we did, the trams, we found there's a tram museum in Sydney, in Cronulla. They've got about 1 kilometre of track. So we were able to shoot there. And for the Sydney Morning Herald printing rooms, we found there's a printing museum in Sydney. And we were able to use the printing museum as the printing section of the newspaper. You had to be very careful all the time that you were doing 1959. Casting is really a key factor with any film. If you cast it right in the first place, the film will go very smoothly, because you'll have heard people, they'll come and read for you, or they do auditions on tape, and you can immediately see how they're responding to the dialogue. And you can see from the expressions on their faces how involved they are in the situations, even though it's only a test. I always spend a long time casting and go through lots and lots and lots of actors, and then say, I want that one, that one, that one. And then once I find the ones I want, I'm really absolutely adamant that we have to use them. Well, there's a number of Australian cinematographers who are recognised worldwide as being absolutely outstanding. I mean, a number have won Academy Awards. A lot of them have got tremendous skill for lighting, and they're very fast, which I think is a background of having to do low-budget films in Australia. They get very good results very quickly. Ladies in Black, which we shot in 32 days, which was, much too fast, was lit by Peter James so quickly that, you know, it looked really good, and I thought, it's great getting those effects, and, you know, we've got like a day to do a really complicated scene, and we should have 3 or 4 days. He did really great work. The thing I like about him is that he can change his photographic style to suit what that particular film needs. A lot of cameramen shoot films in the same style, regardless of the subject matter. But with Peter, the lighting will be completely different. He's very good at that and very consistent. You know, I hope that people will find Ladies in Black as enjoyable and invigorating as I found it.